14. Danziger's was a Ukrainian cafe on the next block. It had big glass windows, always misty with steam. There were vats of water perpetually at the boil for the pyroges and ersatz flour gravy that were the specialty of the place. Stan, Julie, and Hoban took a small booth in the rear. They drank big mugs of black coffee and talked in low voices. Stan was concerned about Hoban's condition. It had been a while since he had last seen the captain, back when Hoban had been captain of the Dolomite and Stan had bought the ship. Stan had liked the taciturn, serious-minded captain and had kept him in charge. Hoban was one of the old breed, a straight-shooting captain, always serious and controlled, whose interests were exclusively in intergalactic navigation and exploration, and who could be counted on to follow orders. Stan had bought the Dolomite during his flush period, when the royalties were rolling in from his various patents before his troubles with Biofarm and the government. In those golden days, it had looked like the sky was the limit. After the asteroid incident, when Hoban had lost his license, Stan had pulled some strings and managed to get him a temporary captain's ticket. They had all been quite close then, Stan and Hoban and Gil the android, who was second in command. But then Stan's problems with Biotherm had begun, and the lawsuits had started flocking in like flies to a flayed cow. A hostile holding company had taken over the Dolomite, and their first act had been to dismiss Hoban, who was known for his loyalty to Stan. They accused the captain of various peccadillos. That was really a laugh, with a man of Hoban's known probity, but mud sticks when you fling enough of it hard enough, and the licensing board had lifted Hoban's temporary ticket pending an investigation. The captain had taken it hard. He was reduced in the course of one terrible day from a man who commanded his own little empire to a penniless derelict who couldn't find any work better than washing dishes. Now they sat together in a Ukrainian cafe with the late afternoon sun streaming in through the windows, and Stan said, "I'm going back into space, Captain, and I want you with me." "It's good of you to say so, but no employer would have me without a license." "I still want you. As for your license, we'll claim it's still in force." "But it won't be." "You can't be sure of that. Money talks. I think the courts were fine for you if it comes to an actual trial, and I'll get your case reopened after this trip." "Can you really do that?" Hoban asked. A ray of hope lighted his heavy features for a moment. Then his expression darkened again. "But I have no ship, Dr. Mayakovsky. Or do you want me to pilot something other than the Dolomite?" "No, we're going on the good old Dolomite." "But doctor, you no longer own it, and even if you did, I am no longer allowed to pilot it." "Possession is 9/10 of the law. Once we're aboard and underway, they'll have to argue with us in court. Their law is against ours." "I don't know," Hoban said, slumping down and shaking his head. "Money talks. We'll win your case. After this trip, we'll all have it good." "Yes, sir. Back into space again. Excuse me for asking, sir, but do you have any money for this venture?" "Enough for what we need and a way to get a lot more." "How do you want to go?" Hoban asked. "Let's get into that later. You don't mind if it's dangerous, do you?" Hoban smiled sadly and shrugged. "Anything's better than rotting here with nothing to hope for." "My sentiments exactly. This is Miss Julie Lish, my partner. You'll be seeing a lot of her on this expedition. Hoban shook Julie's extended hand. But wait. I'm sorry, Stan. You had me dreaming for a moment. I'm afraid it's impossible. Why do you say that? Well, for one thing, there's no crew. Okay, and what else? Well, the Dolomites in geosynchronous orbit above Earth, ready to go on a mining trip in a few days. We'll have to act quickly. Who's running a Dolomite? Gil, until the replacement captain comes aboard. Excellent. I don't think so, Stan. You know Gil. He's programmed to follow the rules. Gil always obeys orders. Not to worry. Are you sure the new captain's not aboard yet? Yeah, I'm sure. Then it's simple. We'll go aboard and take off at once. Yes, sir. But it won't work, sir. You and I are both proscribed from boarding the Dolomite. There are guards. They'll read our retinal prints, turn us back. No! They'll call Gil to make a judgment. He's in charge now. But what can Gil do? Androids are very simple-minded, Dr. Mayakovsky. They obey orders. Their loyalties are built-in hardwired. Like a dog. Yes, sir. Very much like. There's still a chance. Since he was animated, Gil has only worked with you. Well, that's right. But it's been a while since we've been together, and anyhow, when they changed his orders, they will have changed his loyalties too. They will have tried. Actually, it isn't quite so simple. Loyalty in an android is formed by long association with a particular human. I think Gil will lean in your favor when it comes to a showdown between following your orders or those of the new owners. Hoban considered it and shook his head doubtfully. Android conditioning is not supposed to work that way, sir. And if you're wrong, it'll be instant prison for all three of us. Let's worry about that when the time comes. Of course it's not dead simple. What is? The thing is, it's a chance for us all. What do you say, Hoban? Are you with us or not? Hoban looked up and down, uncertain, frowning. Then he looked at Julie. Do you know what kind of chance you're taking here, miss? It's better than sitting around listening to yourself breathe. This venture of yours, Doctor, I suspect it's not entirely legal. That's correct. It's illegal and it's dangerous. But it's a chance to rehabilitate yourself. What do you say? Hoban's mouth quirked. His face twisted in an agony of indecision. Then he suddenly drove his fist down on the table, causing the coffee mugs to jump. I'll do it, Dr. Mayakovsky. Anything's better than this. The three shook hands. Let's get moving. There's no time to waste. There's just one problem, Hoban said. What's that? We don't have a crew. Stan's shoulders slumped and he sat down again. How do you usually get a crew? Julie asked. There's no time to get them on the open market. And we'd have a hard time getting people for a dangerous mission. In circumstances like this, we requisition them from the government. What does the government have to do with it? Julie wanted to know. Well, they allow convicts to put in for a hazardous duty in space in return for reduced time on their sentences. But this time it wouldn't work. The government won't release any of the cons to me now that I've been barred from my own ship. Of course they will, Julie said. Government is slow, Stan. And one part of it never knows what some other part of itself is doing. Just go in and ask the way you usually do. You're a legitimate owner. You've hired crews before. They have to serve you. But what if they know my ship has been seized? First of all, so what? People have property seized every day. It doesn't put them out of business. They have a suit against you, but you're still innocent until proven guilty. And besides, the people who actually give you prisoners, the guards and clerks, what do you think they know about that? They don't know and don't care. They do what they have to do. I don't know. I'll be too nervous. It will work. Maybe, but I don't feel confident about this. Stan, if you want to succeed in what you and I are getting into, you're going to have to learn how to fake self-confidence. Have you ever acted in a play? Sure, in college, I was pretty good. Well, that's what you're going to have to do now. Act the part of Dr. Mayakovsky, brilliant, young scientist and upcoming entrepreneur. Acting a part, Stan mused. What a novel idea, but I believe I could do that. Julie nodded. I knew right away you had it in you to play the big con. If you weren't already a scientist, I think you could make a great thief. It was the nicest compliment Stan had ever been paid. And as for you, Captain Hoban, Julie continued. Yes, miss, Hoban said. You're gonna have to get that hangdog look off your face. You're a spaceship captain again, not a washed-up drunk who did something wrong once in his life and is making himself pay for it for the rest of his life. I'll try to remember that, Hoban said.